Okay, this is the original Mattison Estate. You can see the gates down there, home of Ambler asbestos magnate Richard Mattison of Keasbey and Madison. He built this in 1890. He lived here until the 1930s when he died, at which time the Sisters of the Holy Family of Nazareth purchased the property and turned it into an orphanage and gave it the name St. Mary's Villa, which it's had for years. It was originally about 400 acres. Now it's down to about 50 acres, and you can see it's being developed. And here's the modern history. In 2018, it was sold off to developers who cleared out most all of the many trees that were on the property, to much community outcry. And now for the immediate future, the plans call for new residential housing and a large senior living facility. And up in the corner here, you can see one of the two gatehouse entrances to the property. The gatehouse was sold privately years before. But this whole deal of developing the property caused such a huge public outcry. I won't go into details here. But there's a lot of bitterness about this whole thing. They got rid of the gardens. They bulldozed everything but the castle. But, if there's a bright side, at least they're not building a shopping center, because then it might look like something in this shot. It almost looks like a parking lot at Costco. You can see a lot of residential housing here, actually on three sides, much of which has gone up in the last 20 years or so. And this site is right on the edge of Upper Dublin Township, just across the pike from the borough of Ambler. And up ahead now, check this out. This is the lake, or the pond, as some people tend to call it. It was open to the public for ice skating in the winter. I ice skated there. And also they used it for events like weddings and things. And even though it's filled with stagnant water, you can almost see what a beautiful part of this entire estate it was. And I've been wondering if they're going to keep it or not, because I'm thinking in a residential development, this could be quite a liability. But anyway, there's a little pavilion there. It's a nice spot. And coming into view with a red roof is the second gatehouse entrance to the estate. Now on the right, hey, check this out. All these opulent Victorian-style homes or mansions. Richard Mattison built these for his company executives to live in along the street here, which is Lindenwold Avenue. All these homes have been continuously occupied. Some are single family. Some others have been converted into apartments, as you can see, but they're nicely maintained for the most part. On a street that up to a few months ago was tree-lined on both sides. Some guy on the sidewalk there. And speaking of opulence, let's bypass some of the brand new construction and take a closer look at the crown jewel of this property, the Lindenwold Castle. This was Richard Mattison's home. He was the one who constructed it in 1890 and modeled it to some extent after Windsor Castle. And of course, later it became the actual St. Mary's home for children. A little story time here. The castle was famously used in the 1966 film The Trouble with Angels, that starred Haley Mills and Rosalind Russell. It was known as St. Francis Academy in the film. And look, check out the parapets here. It's a great vantage point for a castle that's under siege. All right, heading back now. Looks like some house locations are being laid out. Ooh, and look at the brown water. You can see a couple lots that will obviously be featuring wet basements in the future. And you can check out some of the little new trees that have been planted. Ironically, where the mature trees had been removed. So in about 30 years, it'll look something like it did before. That's good planning. guy on the sidewalk there. And hey, thank you very much for coming along. It's been fun. And now this part kind of reminds me of video from the first moon landing. Like this.
Forward. Forward. 40 feet down, 2.5. Picking up some dust. Straight shadow. 4 forward, drifting to the right a little. Down 1/2. Contact light. Okay, engine stop.